information package in WebVOWL. So this is the information package. It's been loaded from vAIP.core, vAIP-core.owl. And I've kind of arranged it. I've also collapsed it, so I want to walk this out. So this demo is kind of showing off, this little tool that gives you insight on what's important in an ontology. So we've collapsed it, to the very most important concept, this information package. So I'll start walking down and uncollapsing it, hydrating it. So here's my information package, and you can see, now I've added the information object. So for vAIP-core, you have information package and information object as the two most important pieces. So we'll go one more. Doesn't seem like anything at these two levels. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. 10. We've added preservation. Okay. So an information package has preservation. Preservation is a subclass of this information object. We'll walk it out. Okay, now we're getting something else. Here's package description. And now we'll walk it out a little bit more. Okay, now we're seeing that there's a specific type of package description. So, collection description. So we can see this is pretty important in the system. Especially we're talking about AICs, n-area relationships, or property graphs. We'll walk it back a little bit, and now we start to see parts of the information package, some more parts. So we have this content object, and that's preserved by a preservation object, and it's the content of an information package, and it's also a subtype of this information object, a special type of information object. We'll go out one more. Now we're starting to blow up here. We'll see. So we know we had this information package. Let's do this. Okay, and we zoomed a little bit in, we hydrated it a little more, and we see now that it has packaging, which is another type of information object, right? So you can sort of see the trend here. We have packaging, content, and preservation, which are all essential parts of an information package, and they're all the same type. They're all this information object. And this information object has 3 additional types, which are representation, specifically structure, semantic, and we'll see another one pop up. But, you can also see we've gotten some other important objects or class types here. Member description and associated description. These are also very important in the AIC context. You can see they're kind of over by this description. Then if we expand again, we can see, access aids over here near archival information packages. So they're sort of, over here, and we have, we see what is an information object other than representation, and it's data. So it's data and representation. It's essentially everything about an information object at a fairly detailed level. We also see we've added this associated description here, and tied it and said package descriptions and associated descriptions and are all and collection descriptions and unit descriptions are all types of information objects. So see that? Just like that. So we'll go in one more time for now. And now we'll see, there's one last part of representation that we can add to information objects. And, because representation objects are also information objects, they're recursive, so they can have representation, right? So they can, describe themselves. And if you go into here, you see, through example and OAIS definition, what kind of things we should be putting in here when we're building patterns for these things, because that's the whole point. So we can build these things into patterns of really whatever we want, but that are also archival information units or collections or submission information packages or dissemination information packages. And if as we see what happens here, we have multiple types of preservation, so we're getting all this stuff, and in pattern we're getting access rights and provenance and context and fixity and reference in pattern, and all these things are really well defined with really good examples like DOI for reference and related patterns or records, and provenance would be chain of custody or a versioning log or revision notes, or access rights would be the software license, pretty obviously, or or holding care operators or care vocabulary, right? And similar type of concerns. Legal interoperability issues is how I should characterize it, and then fixity. Pretty easily can think of this as a checksum, but also for sort of core trust seal legal interoperability stuff. So there are multiple places we can handle legal interoperability, and then multiple ways we reference data, and all this is patterned, right? These are just classes, so we create instances, but we don't value those instances. We just say this is a pattern. It's, in JavaScript prototyping, but it's just unvalued templates. But and you can see here we've done something very interesting, and we've said in our system one of the requirements is to improve sustainability and improve holistic knowledge of our system, and we want to federate this system, and part of doing that is greatly facilitated by what we're doing here, which is saying for anything that we create in the system, for anything we create to operate on the system as an access aid, right? So even the API is an access aid because our data is just ontology. Our system is just data, right, is what I'm trying to say. So in such a system, everything to interact with that becomes an access aid. And we can take that really far, but easily we can say, we can create records for finding aids, ordering aids, and retrieval aids in terms of fields that describe them, in terms of packaging description, right, in terms of preservation information. Describe the system. Does the system have documentation? Does the system have schemas? Does the system have entry points? We don't even have to have, computational representation here. If the system has an endpoint, we describe it as an endpoint, right? If that's how we're interacting with it. right? And that's essentially what we're driving toward is, everything will have an API. But if the system doesn't have an API, we still need to interact with it. If it interacts with some part of the enterprise, right? So in that case, we have records that just describe the system and then describe some container or package, science algorithm container that can run it. We're describing that. It's a sort of a network mesh over the system topology, but it's done in a way that's interoperable. So anyway, we can see as I walk this back out, we had our dissemination and submission packages here. And we'll just go all the way, and we'll see our data properties. Alright, so we either have a link or a value for every information object. And that's essentially it.